लोकाभिरामं रणरङ्गधीरं राजीवनेत्रं रघुवंशनाथं कारुण्यरूपं करुणाकरं तं श्रीरामचन्द्रं शरणं प्रपद्ये। मनोजवं मारुततुल्यवेगं जितेन्द्रियं बुद्धिमतां वरिष्ठं वातात्मजं वानरयूथमुख्यं श्रीरामदूतं शरणं प्रपद्ये।
And why there is a decline also, I will explain to you. It was a period of preparation for the loss and the conflict that lay ahead. India had been assured of independence by now. Englishmen played the usual imperialistic game that the states could get merged with either India or Pakistan. Nizam, being a fanatic Muslim, wanted to merge with Pakistan. Since geographically there was no connection between the mainland of Pakistan and the state of Hyderabad, the Nizam wanted to buy Goa with his fabulous wealth and have a direct route to Pakistan through the sea. See what was causing the secret thinking of Nizam's mind. His Jupiter-Venus started in June 1948. India and Pakistan got their freedom in August 1947. Venus is 8th lord of secret intrigues, posited in the 8th house of thinking, was being aspected by Mars, retrograde, conjunct with Rahu and aspected by Saturn. The 4th and the 5th lord. During all this intrigue, Jupiter was passing over his weak houses Virgo, Libra and Scorpio. 25, 27, 25. I told you Jupiter is the planet for dignity. He is preparing now to lose his dignity. When Jupiter is in Lagna, the 7th from the moon, it is time for profound change, the famous transit principle of Phaladipika. The Home Minister of India, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the Iron Man, decided to take military action and asked the army to march on the day Jinnah, the founding father of Pakistan, died. Pakistan was caught in an utter confusion. But Nizam's Saturn was passing over 31 points. You see, Jupiter is reducing the dignity. Saturn is assuring retention of power in some shape. Here you see the balance now. Dignity is getting lost. But Saturn says some power I will allow you to retain. Very honorably allowed him to remain the chief of the state. He retained power, Saturn, though he had lost dignity, Jupiter. A powerful Saturn in natal as well as in transit preserved the power. The loss of kingdom occurred in 1952 only, when the transit Saturn moved into his 12th house, having only 25 points. From where it eclipsed his natal Jupiter, Sun, Saturn, the 9th Lord, Mercury, in the period of Jupiter Rahu. Simultaneously, Jupiter, the major period Lord, having suffered the quantum decline from 35 in the 4th house to 28 in the 5th house, and still poorer, 26 in the 6th, dealt with the final blow and the monarchy tumbled. Interestingly, Jupiter and Saturn were in opposition in his 6th and 12th. Again the double transit. Rahu, the sub-period lord, all along this unsettling drama, was passing over houses carrying only 24, 25, 28 points, Aries, Pisces and Aquarius, namely, afflicting nearly all planets except Saturn in the birth chart. This was the same Rahu which in its major period had bestowed upon him all the treasures of the world. See? That is the second case of royalty. Now we will come to a case better known to you people. I will take more time over this because you will know these cases better than the case of Nizam. I went fast. Historical case. What is the ascendant? Now where is Jupiter? Of dignity with Venus, the 10th lord. And in the Navansha, you find Jupiter aspecting the Sun. Right? Again that question of Ainansha comes into play. 1 degree 28 minutes you add and of Raman Ainansha and the Sun will move up, will change and it will not come in contact with Jupiter at all. So it is a good horoscope. The 12th house here has greater strength than and the 11th case of more expenditure than gain. In the case of a business horoscope, when you see stronger 12th house than the 11th house, the counseling you should do is, if you remain in your own country, do export-import business. Or move out of the country, you will do better. Or move out of your country, you will do better. The stronger house is the 12th.
No, how about just working with foreigners?
Okay, same thing. Yes, correct. So now here you see. Are you able to see it clearly? Okay. Having discussed two Muslim monarchs, this case is from the English monarchy. With this third case, you would like to draw your attention to the planets in the 11th and the 3rd house of the previous two cases also. I am teaching a very strong astrological principle, and those so-called scientists and astronomers and who attack astrology and say there is no principle of replication in astrology. A lot of nonsense, particularly has happened in England and USA when your Boston scientists signed a statement in 75 against astrology. Replication, apply the principle and repeat them. Now see this. King Farouk was the eldest and had Jupiter in the 11th house. I told you the principle. The position of Jupiter in the 11th makes one person either the eldest or the youngest. You can replicate it on your horoscopes, on programs. 60, 70, 80% result you are bound to get. Nizam Hyderabad was also the eldest, and he had Mars and Rahu in the 11th house, which makes him a person eldest or the youngest. The Duke of Windsor was also the eldest, and he too had Mars and Rahu together, but in the 3rd house. Malefic, especially Mars in the 3rd house, makes a person eldest or the youngest. This confirms the correctness of Lagna when it is in doubt or it is a borderline case. These are the thumb rules which come out correct in 80% cases. Now let us come to our standard parameters. The 4th house has no aspects. In the case of the king, I told you the 4th house is the throne. It is an unfortunate case in which the 4th lord is the Mars, 4th house has no aspect, and the 4th lord recedes back, is with Rahu, is aspected by Saturn. Right? The 4th lord Mars is under the worst affliction, being conjunct with Rahu and receiving aspects of Saturn and Ketu, no benefic access on the 4th house or 4th lord. Jupiter is neither aspecting the sun nor the moon in the birth chart. And the verse is that the sun is in the 6th house aspected by both Mars and Saturn. In the birth horoscope, sun aspected by Mars and Saturn. Sun-Saturn opposition or Sun-Saturn affliction is always a quarrel between the commoner and royalty. It's a well-known standard between the commoner and royalty. His father died on January 8, 1936 in Saturn, Rahu, Jupiter. Saturn is in his 9th house. Rahu is aspecting the 9th. So is Jupiter. He became the king on January 21, 1936. In the same dasha, Jupiter, the provider of dignity, was passing over Scorpio with 31 points. When he became the king, Jupiter was in Scorpio. But Saturn, the provider of power, was transiting over Aquarius with only 22 points. And where is his moon? You see, again it is a case of Sade Sati and a weak Sade Sati. Well, the great saint has come, the yogi. You can hurry also to cover up. I have given you a lot of stuff about Ashtakvarga. Is okay? Now, having discussed two, so anyway, the king was in love with a commoner, Mrs. Valley Simpson, an American-born resident of Baltimore. He insisted he would marry her only, and under the pressure of the conservative British Parliament, he created history by abdicating the throne on December 10, 1936. This was a rare example of a king abdicating the throne for love. He was running Saturn, Rahu, Mercury. Mercury in the 7th house confirms the cause of abdication being love. He could not betray his lady love due to the aspect of Jupiter on the 9th house. Saturn Rahu period shows a commoner. If instead it was Jupiter Sun period, it would have shown aristocracy. You see, that is how you catch the level. Right? His younger brother became the king next day. The Duke's major period Lord Saturn carried 26 points by natal position and 22 points by transit position. Moreover, Saturn was passing over his natal moon, was in its severest phase of Sade Sati. The analysis of Sade Sati should always be done along with Ashtakvarga considerations, never without it. So you are all the time talking about Sade Sati, about double transit, about Ashtakvarga. Now you see, I am combining everything. All the questions you people had asked me, I am combining everything. And the one who asks maximum questions is always missing, that is Ronnie.
So if you have a Sade Sati combined with high Ashtakavarga, then you can just presume that it's not going to.
Yes, I showed you even in the case of Saturn in the 8th house. In the case of D.N. Dikshit, I showed you. I said you will get the best promotion of your life. So it is like this.
In Sarva stock chart for the Duke of Windsor is incorrect.
Pardon?
This chart is incorrect. You might want to for editing.
Here in this Ashtakvarga. Now we come to the younger brother. The elder brother fell in love and lost the kingdom. And the younger brother, who was never in line of succession, became the king. See the contrast. Not merely the contrast, from here comes a very peculiar story of the fate of British kingdom. First of all, see, in the 2nd house you have the sun and the moon aspected by Jupiter. Right? Jupiter is in the 10th house from the Lagna. The 4th Lord Saturn is exalted, throne. Okay? Now see the same 4th Lord in the Navansha debilitated. The use of Navansha, right? Condition of the 4th Lord in the Navansha. There is debilitation. Jupiter in the Navansha is aspecting both the sun and the moon. Again the quarrel about the Ainansha comes in. Sun and moon both would not receive the aspect of Jupiter in the Navansha according to Lahiri, according to Raman. But in Lahiri they will. So the Navansha is excellent. The only defect is what is the defect? the fourth lord debilitated in the Navansha. A slight variation from our normal pattern which we are having so far. Right? And in the Sarvastaka you find a quantum jump from 29 to 40. Having seen this, now come to the discussion. Here is another case study from the British monarchy. This horoscope is one of the finest examples for explaining a good deal of subtlest principles of Vedic astrology. Let us examine our parameters one by one. The fourth lord Saturn is exalted in the Lagna. It is also the fifth lord of dignity, posited with the Lagna lord Venus. Fourth house gets the aspect of exalted Jupiter retrograde. Both luminaries, the sun and the moon, receive the aspect of Jupiter both in the birth chart and Navansha. The 11th house from Lagna has 40 points as compared to 29 in the 10th house. A whopping 17-point quantum jump. Saturn being in Lagna, this comparison holds good from Saturn also. The king's subjects stood solidly behind him in all those years of great turbulence of World War II that followed his coronation. You see, no other king had such a terrible misfortune in his life. He became the king and started the world, and World War II started 1 or 2 years later. Right? Now come to the subtle points of Vedic astrology here. Please note that the 10th Lord Moon is 227 as per Lahiri Ainansha in Scorpio. You see, that is where all my quarrel in India is going on. I cannot afford. You are saying, why are you having so many enemies? Can you tell me, if I don't show debilitated moon here, how will you explain that here is a king who had the misfortune of seeing in his life the liquidation of British Empire? Is there any other king who remained in power but was powerless? An empire over which the sun never set became under him an empire over the sun sets earlier. This moon is the 10th lord for Tula Lagna. Debilitated. And the 4th lord is debilitated in the Navansha. So the weakness of the 10 and 4. Also please note that his Lagna carries only 20 points and the Sun, Lagna and Moon both carry only 23 points. Though the mean Moon picks up some strength in Navansha, where it goes into its own house Cancer. Now check the real strength of the 4th Lord, which is exalted in Lagna with 22-21 degrees. Add 1 degree 23 minutes in Navansha, it will not be debilitated. It will go into Taurus then. Why exact Navansha is this Ainansha is necessary? This is one horoscope which will show both Moon and Saturn will improve with a different Ainansha. But in Lahiri it will show deterioration only. He became the king in 1936 and from 1938 Hitler started bombarding London. He was running Ketu Mercury when the World War started. Mercury is his 12th lord of losses. For the king, it was constantly the period of conflict and survival. Surviving first against the onslaught of German power, which was violent, and later the onslaught of Mahatma Gandhi, who was non-violent. Right? The major period of his 8th Lord Venus had started in January 1940. He was running Venus Mercury at the time of Quit India movement in 1942. In India, we had a big movement known as Quit India, launched by Mahatma Gandhi. And we knew that was the end of British Empire now. And Englishmen also knew it would now be difficult for them to continue. Quit India movement. The debilitated 10th Lord and the debilitated 4th Lord in the Navansha will explain the rest of the story. But Jupiter in the 10th house saved him from Hitler and saved him from the fury of Indians. Even after the liquidation of the British Empire, India continued in the Commonwealth, British Commonwealth of Nations, and continues to have best of relations. That Jupiter in the 10th house has to bring in that idealism.
Can you use the chart of the king of the president of the country to understand the monthly chart of that country?
Pardon?
Can you use the chart of the king of the president of the country?
Yes, always. You must use it if you have it. In mundane, you have to use it. Now, with all due apologies to all the males present here in the conference, in the hall and outside, let me tell you, in India we describe woman as Lakshmi. You know that. Lakshmi. And a real blessing of a mother or a woman can change your fortune. But I will want Karve Saab to speak about it if he finds time. My duty is to give you the astrological data. 4 males you have seen so far. 2 Muslims, both of whom lost. 1 Englishman who lost. The other Englishman who continued but had the misfortune of presiding over the liquidation of British Empire. And in 1952 when he died, he was succeeded by his daughter, who was not in the line of succession at all, being the elder daughter of the second son of King George V. Where was the question? But she was born with a horoscope which has a rare beauty from all points of view. Now come to this. I will discuss it slowly. I don't know whether Vinay Aditya has covered all those points or not, but these are some of my favorite examples in the classroom in Bharati Vidya Bhavan. If it strikes you, it's okay, otherwise I will tell you. Suppose I am not discussing Ashtakvarga, and I was only discussing a horoscope generally as it is, where Ashtakvarga would become only merely incidental. And suppose I were to put a question to you or set a question paper and ask me to tell what is it that strikes the eye most in this horoscope of Queen Elizabeth, what would you say? take this. We have taken that parameter fourth lord. Right? It is one of those rare horoscopes where the fourth lord Mars is on the most extreme point of exaltation. (28°). That is the extreme point of exaltation. Born with that horoscope. And the fourth house contains the real planet of royalty, reaching towards its extreme point of exaltation, which is 10°, advancing towards that. In Vedic astrology, we use the word Arohi and Avarohi. Arohi means a planet moving towards its point of exaltation, and Avarohi means a planet moving out of point of exaltation towards its point of debilitation. Here is Jupiter, Mars, both in the Lagna, Mars on extreme point of exaltation, the sixth and the ninth lord debilitated in the third house, Jupiter debilitated in the, but the third lord debilitated, the sixth lord debilitated. They form under that great exceptions of Parashara, when third, sixth debilitated lords suddenly turn your minus balance into a plus balance.
Is that just those 3 and 6 that do that?
3, 6, 8, 12. And look at the two. This is a very extraordinary horoscope. Two exalted planets are taking her up. Two debilitated planets are taking fire higher up still. Look at peculiar this thing. Now there is something more important. The most important. I told you, always see the dasha scheme. Right? Always see the dasha scheme. The degree of the moon is 1922. She was born in the dasha of Mercury then. Mercury, the ninth lord, representing father. Right? Ninth lord representing father. And it is in the dasha of her ninth lord that she brought tremendous luck to her father, who became a king. Right? That is followed by the dasha of Ketu. Where is Ketu here in this horoscope? 12th house. Hitler's army went on bombarding England, and the queen had to be, the would-be queen, heir apparent, had to be taken into a hiding somewhere in Scotland. Hiding. 12th lord yesterday, you remember? 12th house. Not kidnapped now, but she has been taken into hiding. Pardon?
Please repeat what you just said. The rule that you said about the debilitated planets, is that just for the lords, or is that also the occupied?
In my astrology destiny wheel of time also I have given example of debilitated Jupiter and debilitated Venus, both giving promotions, and the man came to me, I said, within 6 months you will have 2 important promotions in your life. Parashara exception. But no horoscope in the world can be superior in explaining some of the greatest principles of Vedic astrology than this. One planet exalted extremely, one moving towards point of exaltation, 6th lord debilitated, 12th lord debilitated, falling under the exceptions of Parashara of these debilitated lords acquiring the potentiality to lift you up. It is not Nicha Bhanga. Please don't use any wrong word. Don't use any wrong word. When I say an exception, I use exception.
So his question is, does it also apply to duty when it's placed in
Yes. My further extension of this principle was that a debilitated planet in the third, sixth house also gives such a result. I wrote this research of mine nearly 10 years ago. It appeared in the Astrological magazine. Pardon? The importance of the Dasha scheme. So in the Ketu Dasha, she goes into hiding. The only significant event in her Ketu period of 7 years was some Salvation Army or some such thing is there. She joined and did some work. Then came the period of Venus. The fifth and the 10th Lord, the Yoga Karaka. 48, she got married. Till 64, she had 4 children, which I have given in Planets and Children. Her father died in 52, she became the queen. She became the queen of an empire which had already been liquidated. Right? But unlike King Farouk, unlike Nizam of Hyderabad, unlike Duke of Windsor, unlike King George VI, 52, 1952, she became the queen when her father died. In England, they have this peculiar monarchical tradition of having the actual coronation 1 year after. But from our point of view, 1952, when her father died, is good enough. She became the queen. She was an heir apparent and she became the queen. 20 years, Venus Dasha. Followed by 6 years, exalted. Followed by 10 years in his own house. Followed by, right? See the example? Why Vinshotri, Dasha and Parashara will remain unbeatable in the world? See the Dasha scheme. There is predestination. God has made certain things. She is born to be a queen. Is there anyone among you who has any French origin? No. No weakness for France? You know, we in India, because we are under British rule, we are given lots of jokes where Frenchmen and Scotchmen were always run down. Frenchmen and Scot. Anyway, one of the fine jokes which I read during my student days was a Frenchman and an Englishman was sitting. They had gone to a music show and the French queen and the English queen both had come to watch it. The Frenchman asked the Englishman, "What is the difference you are seeing?" He said, "Well, my queen is more graceful, our queen." He said, "No, my dear fellow. When your queen came, she first saw whether there was a chair and then sat down like this. She wanted to make sure there was a chair to sit on. When the English queen came, she just sat down like this. She knew there had to be a chair." It's a stable monarchy. England has always represented stable monarchy, a conservative country. That joke illustrates it. Now look at the stability. That King Farouk, whose case I discussed, is credited with a very great, I call it an immortal joke. When World War II started, he was the king of Egypt. He said, after World War II is over, there will be only 5 kings left in the world. 4 kings of the pack of cards, and the 5th will be the king of England. Pack of cards, 4 kings. Right?
Same power.
Same power. That was a brilliant joke. And you see that is continuing. That joke. Where are the other kings? Gone, 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 gone. It is only now that he has run into a bad dasha. Not very bad. Rahu in the 6th is good. It lends strength. So she has been having lot of trouble with her children. I will divert your attention slightly without drawing, without telling. Prince Charles has Cancer ascendant. Who is the 4th lord? Debilitated in the 3rd house. Not yet become the king. And see the 4th lord here. Exalted. A woman not born in the line of succession becomes a queen, and the longest surviving queen of the world today. 52, and I am discussing horoscope in 95 in USA. How many years? See that? What dashas do? What the planets show that?
Problems with her children in her chart in terms of the Jupiter things with regard to the children.
No, but in the planets and children in Saptantra also there I have discussed it. Now I go to the last horoscope, and after that this Ashtakvarga. I given lot of material to you today, discussing, showing, double transit,